We started the month with Silent Hill, which it's flawed. It's not a perfect game adaptation by any stretch, of course, but it's certainly better than its sequel. So let's talk about that today. This is Silent Hill Revelation, which I always feel should have an S at the end. And it has Carrie-Anne Moss, so a film called something Revelations is perfectly fine. This was written and directed by MJ Bassett and stars, yes, Carrie-Anne Moss, but also Adelaide Clemens, Kit Harington, Malcolm McDowell. We have Sean Bean return, who actually gets a death scene, even if it's in a dream. The balance is restored. I'm happy with that. Not that I hate Sean Bean, it's just he dies in everything, or almost everything. And we also have Radha Mitchell pop up very briefly as well to reprise her character from the first one. But I always have this thing of, I'll go into a film with expectations. We all do. We go and approach stuff thinking, this will be great, this will be terrible, this will be mediocre. And sometimes having that colours how we come away from it. I watched this years and years ago when it was first released and really did not like it. I thought a lot was terrible, to really just lay it out there. But this time, because I'd already had that preconception, that expectation that I'm really going to hate it, it was the lower side, I'll grant you, but it was kind of tolerable. I don't feel it was a massive waste of time. However, I was like looking at my phone, checking messages, that kind of stuff. It was probably that was actually making it tolerable. But it's interesting that the writer and director has since stated that they are unhappy with this project. Additionally, they have come out as transgender as well about 6 years after this. So I've given the credit as they are now. Obviously, if you look at the credits, it's a different name. Let's not dead name people. It's not cool. There is a video actually coming out in a couple of weeks that will discuss that. The shadow plug here. But still, be nice. But yeah, like I say, even the person who made this says, yeah, that wasn't great. And there's a lot of fan service. Again, we've got Pyramid Head being used incorrectly. However, it's consistent with the first in a way, this idea of a protector of Alessa. So I can sort of forgive it, but there's very few things here I can even sort of forgive. The makeup on the dark version of Heather kind of almost looks like she's cosplaying as like some kind of black and white dog or a panda, because that under-nose shadow might it might be meant to be like ash and stuff like that just collated there, but it really just looks like she's doing some weird, very terrible face paint cosplay thing, and I do not appreciate that. I do like the fact that they kept things from the game, but that's also sort of its downfall. Like the idea that, she's changed her name, so she is Heather now, it actually ties in. She gets the sleeveless jacket, all this kind of stuff, it makes it visually feel right. But one of the things that they do that kind of causes a problem by hewing closer to the games is, in the first one, we have the cult. They are a cult still, but they are a sort of zealous Christian cult. It's not like in the games where it is some kind of other religion. Obviously completely made up. But in this one, because they wanted, maybe some of the complaints, were that it wasn't close enough to the game, so in this one they're like, hey, we should make it closer to the games. They didn't think about the consistency. So we have the seal of Metatron in this cult that isn't actually religious, even though Carrie-Anne Moss's character is Alice Krieger's character, sister. Which also technically makes her related to Dahlia, and therefore Alessa and Heather. They've made it so much more confusing unnecessarily. I really do not get it. And there's the metal pipe that she picks up. That was in the first one as well. It's one of the early weapons. But like I say, there's so much here that they've tried to do that's close, but then they've just really dropped the ball. They haven't just dropped the ball. They've literally kind of leapt up to a great height, threw it at the ground, and then threw a bunch of darts so the ball would deflate. And this is me saying that even, it wasn't as bad as the first time I watched it. I'm still seeing all of these flaws and I cannot forgive them. But I do like some elements here more than I remember. The whole thing with Kit Harington, he's not great at this American accent. But I didn't feel it was as bad as when I first saw it. Again, it could be that expectation. But it was okay. And I think in something like this, something okay is actually pretty good. It's like you have to move the goalposts quite a lot further down. As someone who doesn't do sports, I'm doing a lot of sports metaphors this one, I don't know why. But I do appreciate the fact that they tried to do as much practically as possible. The only truly CG thing, or creature, is the spider mannequin, or mannequin spider. I've heard it written both ways. I don't have automatophobia, which is the fear of mannequins, dolls, that kind of thing, but there are certain ones that creep me out a bit, and the mannequin spider does not help with that, and also the fact that it's converting people into mannequins and then taking their heads, and the trauma that's in that. It's just terrifying and awful. But that's the only CG creature, and I understand, they couldn't really do that practically without it looking absolutely ridiculous, or having like a bunch of different contortionists all having to sync up, which would have taken a lot of time and effort. So I am fine with that, but I can't still say that makes it good. Like, Malcolm McDowell is one of those actors who, I kind of hate myself for saying this, isn't great as an actor, but he gives his all to the role. I guess it's a bit like Nicolas Cage. When he hits, but when he doesn't, it's still entertaining. That's the same for Malcolm McDowell. I think they are very similar in that way. So whenever I'm watching something with Malcolm McDowell, I know I'm going to enjoy at least a part of it, whether to laugh at or laugh with, as it were. But I just do not feel that this was a good sequel. It wasn't a good film on its own rights. I mean, because you could, except for a few bits, just watch this in isolation, because they do explain the history with Sharon, etc. But I do not think that it works on either front, because, like I say, it undoes some of the stuff and confuses some stuff from the first one, and it's just kind of empty and hollow. The fact that it isn't the same people returning, I think, made a big impact on that, although there were mitigating circumstances. One of the writers of the previous one was arrested for something. It's not the typical Hollywood problem, but it still was something that obviously meant that he couldn't participate, and obviously the studio just wanted to go ahead and make one regardless, and it would have been better if he was involved. Now, one of the things that, before I sort of go into the end, that might be a little glimmer of hope, but it's one of those maybe, I kind of liked and I didn't like, it's very confusing, the bit at the end. We have the Travis cameo of sorts. Now, I like Peter Outerbridge. He's a good actor. He's in one of my least favourite Saw moments. It's very uncomfortable to me and I do not like it. And this Travis cameo almost feels like a setup for a third film, that if it would have been done in the same way as this, thankfully didn't arrive. Also, that would have probably adapted one of the games that people don't really like. A lot of people like the core first three, and I respect that. But like I said, I always end up, I end my videos on a high, and I did say there's something that may be hopeful, because we have Christoph Gans, who was involved in the first one, returning for Return to Silent Hill, which is, hopefully going to be released at some point, and will be okay, because he was involved in the first one. He wasn't the one who had the criminal issues, but the issue I have with that one, and where I'm maybe a bit dubious, is the fact that it's based on Silent Hill 2. It is going to be very similar to that. They're actually having James's story. We're not having Sean Bean and all that. That's separate, which is right. I think that's the right way to do it. Make it its own thing. However, this feels like there's a remake of Silent Hill 2 by Bloober Team. Let's cash in on that. If that's part of the motivation, there's going to be certain things that are going to be pushed. There's certain ways that it's going to be presented that are going to be less than ideal. So I'm cautious. There is a touch of optimism, because the first one, like I say, wasn't awful. But we'll see. You never know. So yeah, Silent Hill, an okay film. Its sequel, not so much. Next month, because I love doing theme months and it's Halloween, so it's horror based, I will be talking about a film that I really love, and then a couple of sequels that I'm not sure of, and then a film that I haven't actually seen yet. So I'll see how I feel about it. But I hope you'll join me for all of that. And until next time, as always, thank you for watching and take care.